Good evening or good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Shawan Burns. Today, we're going to be talking about Juneteenth in Chicago. Juneteenth is a federal holiday. We recognize that of the day of being free of enslavement. And it's particularly for African Americans that were brought over here for slavery or the purpose of slavery, and we celebrate it every year. I celebrated as a young kid. I don't get too much into it today, but there was some violent, a celebration in violent shootings because over a disagreement. They didn't say what the disagreement was, but it ended in violence. So, and that was in Chicago. So we'll take a look at this video. Chicago's been going through some challenges. They have a new mayor that wants to paint the people that are committing these acts of violence and this crime. He wants to paint them as kids that have not been nurtured. They haven't had the proper parenting or because they don't have enough community programs. That's what the mayor wants you to think. I believe it's all to do with parenting, of course. And you could raise your child up the way you think they should go, and they would, start making their own decisions. But if you really raise your child right, in a good home environment, a good stable environment, I don't think they would necessarily turn into crime or violent crime, right? So it's just absent parenting. These kids probably haven't had a father figure, haven't had a mother figure. So they let the street raise these children, and so they how they survive, I guess, is they turn to the life of crime. And some of these kids, they just don't give a damn. So this ended up in Juneteenth, supposed to be a celebration for Black people, because we're free, and it into a violent celebration. So we'll talk about that crime in Chicago, and also we're going to talk about Cori Bush. Cori Bush. She thinks it's a time, since we're celebrating Juneteenth, it's a time that the U.S. pays out this $14 trillion reparation bill. It's a time for them to pass it, and she wants this bill passed. And so we'll talk about that in the later half of the hour. It's a $14 trillion and reparations for Black American. What she said, this Juneteenth is an opportune moment to consider the bill calling for $14 trillion in reparations for Black Americans. Put in the chat, let me know what you think about that. I have a whole bunch to say about that, but let's get to this news report. I want to share this tab instead. And we're going to talk about Chicago. Chicago. Hold on, let me see if I go. I'm trying to share this news video with you guys. Hold on. Apparently, I don't know what I'm doing today. Okay, this is it. Right now, I got
exclusives, live reporting across the globe. ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere.
Karen, there are dozens of people here right now, understandably very emotional over this. That 15-year-old victim who was taken here to Stroger Hospital has now died. Another 14-year-old boy remains in the hospital.
If you guys seen what we see here behind us, it would bring you to tears.
A family now in mourning are gathered outside Stroger Hospital. Chicago police say it was around 4:45 p.m. in the 100 block of South Homan when two teenagers were hit by gunfire. Video from the scene shows scooters on the ground, dozens of officers investigating. Police say the 14-year-old boy was shot multiple times in his body. The 15-year-old was shot in the head. Crisis responder Andrew Holmes says this weekend was supposed to be one of celebration, but now it's one of devastation for this family.
I'm not happy at all. Not happy at all. Father's Day, Juneteenth, celebrating for what? Until we can stop this gun violence, black on black crime, and get these individuals in custody, then talk to me. But we got two babies here. So how their fathers going to be happy? How the mother's going to be happy? How the family's going to be happy? It's wrong. Turn these individuals in.
And right now, Chicago police say no one is in custody as area detectives continue their investigation.
So that's one report that I want you guys to look at.
Together, we are no longer afraid. We are celebrating.
This other one, this was from the actual celebration where 23 people they were shot. One was fatally killed. Now, back to that other story. So it was a total of 56 people that were shot in Chicago this weekend. We have Father's Day that happened this weekend and the celebration of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is actually today, is June 19th. But it was 56 people that were actually shot in Chicago alone. And we're going to take a look at some numbers after we see this report of how many people were fatally killed in Chicago since January, the beginning of this year. On that last report, they mentioned that this shooting happened at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. A 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. Where are their parents? I mean, it's nothing on them. Of course, they should be able to roam freely without being in danger. But what my mother used to say, and my dad used to say, and he's a musician, he's a retired musician. Anything, nothing good happens in the dark. That's what she used to say. Nothing good happens in the dark. Like, why are you roaming the streets at 4:30 in the morning? That, to me, that's ludicrous. And you're a kid that you should be home in your bed sleep. So where are the parents? And it's probably another teenager that shot him. It's really sickening. Now, this other report is the actual Juneteenth where it was like in the suburbs of Chicago where they was celebrating in this strip mall. But the shooting happened after midnight.
Deadly violence across this country with at least 3 mass shootings. Police say 1 person is dead and 22 others hurt after gunfire erupted during a Juneteenth celebration outside of Chicago. And 1 person was killed and 9 others injured overnight in downtown St. Louis. The victims ranging in age from 19 to 15 years old. Here's ABC's Alex Perche.
In a year that's already seen more mass shootings than days, at least 3 more overnight. In Willowbrook, Illinois, police say at least 23 people were shot at a Juneteenth celebration in a strip mall parking lot overnight.
400 people outside, female screaming, report of gunshots.
1 person killed, others injured, fleeing the gunfire.
We just started heard the shoot before we had us, so we dropped down.
It was chaos. Police say they don't know how many suspects they're looking for or how many firearms were used, and they're still investigating a motive.
It's kind of becoming something where it's like inescapable.
Active shooting at Gorge Amphitheater. I'm not requesting any state assistance.
And in Washington state, authorities say at least 2 people were killed and another 2 injured after a gunman opened fire near the Beyond Wonderland Electronic Dance Music Festival overnight. The sheriff's department says the shooter walked the campgrounds firing randomly into the crowd. A suspect, also injured, now in custody. The festival has canceled the rest of this weekend's events. And in St. Louis, police say a 17-year-old is dead and 9 other teens injured after a shooting at a late-night party in an office building. Police are trying to figure out how the group got inside. Officers recovering multiple firearms, including an AR-style rifle. Police have arrested a teenager in connection with the shooting. Lindsay, the Gun Violence Archive reports there have been at least 310 mass shootings across the U.S. this year. Shootings resulting in the deaths of more than 820 kids ages 17 and under. Lindsay?
Youth firearm deaths on the rise here. Alex, thank you.
So, and you know,
He may not look like central casting for a movie.
she stated youth firearm deaths are on the rise. These and they're trying to put more restrictions and more laws about guns. And these are not legal gun owners. These guns are not registered with the state. Matter of fact, Chicago, they got strict gun laws. I don't even think you could carry a firearm in the state of Illinois. Somebody put that in the chart. I think you have to, if you are a registered gun owner, it has to be, it's not on your person. It has to be like in your house. You can't, they don't have no open carry laws, or you can't just have a concealed weapon on you. So where are these youth getting their guns from? And it's like, you know, you do have Republicans, or not Republicans, but Democrats saying that, oh, we need to have gun restrictions and all this stuff. But if you look at most of the mass shootings and the majority of shootings that take place in the United States, these are the states that are Democratic cities, most of them: Houston, Chicago, St. Louis. I think LA is on the top of gun violence. And most of those cities and states have strict gun laws. Detroit, we have strict gun laws, even stricter gun laws. And I know in Michigan, you know, you got to get it took me about 60 days to get my CPL. You got to get your fingerprints. You can't have, there's a long list of things that you cannot have done. Like literally, you couldn't, if you have a drinking and driving charge on you, it's something non-violent. You know, you can't even get your CPL, even if you are a non-violent offender. They won't even issue your CPL in Michigan. So, and then if you get any of these charges, they could revoke your license. So, but they have really strict gun laws here. And Detroit is probably top 5 in mass shootings or gun violence. We call it mass shootings, but gun violence in the Black community. So Juneteenth, but we supposed to be celebrating Juneteenth. I'm talking to all my Black people out there. We celebrating being free. Is this what free look like? Put it in the chat. Somebody put in here. This is Sam. Violence has plagued Juneteenth celebrations since it became more widespread. In Seattle, they had them for about 20 to 30 years, never had problems until recently. Why do you think that is? I think kids, they don't have parents is the cause of it. I don't think it's adults doing this. I think it's these rambunctious. I wouldn't even call rambunctious. Rambunctious is a different word. My kids are rambunctious because they're boys. They just don't care about human life, and they think the shit is fun and funny and cute. And then there's no penalties for it. That's why it is. There's no penalties. We protect young children that have violent charges against them. And these are, you know, large cities. Like that young boy, that PG County boy that went on a bus to try to assassinate the other boy. It was 3 of them, and there was a girl ringleader. All of them were under the age. And they was trying to protect that boy. They wouldn't allow them to bring up other records that he had in a different city. And he ended up subsequently killing another person because he was on a run for about 30 days in a different state. I think they found him in DC. You guys remember that story, that PG County story? Let me just bring that up. The boy, it was 3 kids that got on the bus to try to kill another kid. They said it was like some type of gang related thing. And they claimed that a girl set the whole thing up. And his name was Baby K or something like that. So he's like some type of rapper. And in my video, I compared him to King Von, because they said King Von, he was a rapper, but they think he was one of the first kid serial killers. I mean, he died at 26, but he had a lot of bodies on him. You know, he had a lot of bodies on him. I think they linked him to like 15 murders. Let me see if I could pull this up. So I think that's why we're having this. This is Baby K. That's that boy that got caught on the bus. Well, he didn't get caught on the bus. He was on the run for 30 days. He went on the school bus to kill somebody. But the gun, by the grace of God, the gun jammed. So they were saying that they had, the prosecuting attorney was saying that some of the records that they couldn't get, or, you know, they couldn't get his face, or, you know, some of his pictures or whatever, because he's a minor. They're protecting the minors. And I don't think, and it's laws out there, written out there, to protect minors from being criminally or adult prosecuted. But he already caught another body while he was on a run. He killed a 20-year-old, 1-year-old young lady. He killed her. So that's what's happening. Frank, you said, no, I'm sorry, William Washington. You said, you're right. Bad culture, bad parenting hurts our community, and it does. I wanted to show you this statistic before I move forward to what Mayor Brandon Johnson had to say. This statistics is showing that cancel. It's showing how many people that was killed in Chicago. Now, and this is off of Chicago Sun-Times. You could access this. If you just Google homicides in Chicago, I think they're like the first or second tab if you Google it. So they're saying since January 2023, 263 victims have been killed in Chicago. And you could narrow the search query down. You could put community areas and all that stuff. But I want to search it by this. Cause, because they have a shooting or stabbing. So we just put shooting. And you see 250 victims. Now, I've been looking in my chat, and some people say, Shawan, you working for the man, you cooning, you brainwashing. Because I'm going to narrow it down for you. Let's see black versus white. And I got a short out there saying that black people, and this is not me saying, this is the statistics. These are numbers, factual data. Black people are more times more likely to die of gun violence, or we're more affected by gun violence than our white counterparts. And this is why I say this, because numbers don't lie. So if we want to talk about, hey, Juneteenth, we free, we deserve reparation, Black Lives Matter, and we don't address this issue, that's a problem. That's a problem for us, for our community. So if we narrow it down to just black people, 167 black victims have been shot in Chicago. How many whites? 17. The media will always highlight, we see local media in Chicago and stuff like that, of course, violence in Chicago. But when we talk about mass shootings, we always highlighting, mass shootings in these rural areas, or it affects white victims. And then they start talking about, oh, we need to put a stop to AR rifles and put a ban on AR rifles. It's very interesting to see that they're not talking about this type of violence that's happening in the black community. But when somebody get killed, a white person kills a black person, which is a rarity. Let's put that out there. It's a rarity. You have more chances of getting killed by your neighbor, your black neighbor, than a white person. But when we see this, 167 black victims in Chicago this year alone, you don't see that's a problem. And you got your white counterpart, they live in, and I'm pretty sure that, okay, that's kind of scary, 17 victims, but it is Chicago. It is the largest city. This is what, 20 times more? 15 times more? Or 10 times more? 10 times more than this 17? And y'all don't see this as a problem. But I would get comments, oh, Shawan, you're cooning, you're working for the man, you brainwash, you're brainwashed. No, I'm just looking at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. And this is shameful. You could pull it down. Look at males. 20 women got killed out of 167 people, black females. Look at the males though. 147. And y'all don't see it's a problem. Let's take the age down. Because I know it's between 15 and 25. Look, the media, what's his name? Joe Biden, the president, he had a tweet out there saying, oh, black shootings, rifles or guns is the #1 cause of death in kids. I narrowed it down from 15 to 28. 15 to 18, we got 15. If you go to 30, it's 81. Let's go to 15, 0 to 15. How many kids? 7. What's the problem, you guys? We got teenagers killing. When I call you a teenager, I'm thinking about 15, maybe 14. We could put 14 in there. 14 to 21. We could even say 26. I think after 26, you start getting some sense. I think that's 59. That's where the majority of this type of stuff is happening. But you know, Biden and them, though, this is the #1 killer of kids. What kind of kids? Teenagers? You know, they want you to believe these are babies. No, these are teenagers. And there's probably another teenager doing the crime, somebody around in their age. And we're talking about Black men. So when we saying Juneteenth, oh, we're celebrating to be free. Father's Day, oh yeah, we're celebrating Father. What are you celebrating? Is this what you celebrating? So please, you guys, don't be in the comment section talking about, oh, you cooning. No, I'm just looking at the facts. Sam said that lady is nuts. Those dollars wouldn't be worthless if that happened. Just tell me what you're talking about when you're referring to that. Nothing good. Yeah, my mom used to say that. Nothing good going on at past 12. My mom used to say that all the time. Hey, Fadia. Hey, I don't think I even go on holiday in the US anymore. This crazy stuff is too commonplace. Yeah, I mean, you got to watch where you're going. You know, if you trying to go out and my only thing, we're celebrating Juneteenth. Okay, this will be Juneteenth. Like when I was growing up, they celebrated during the day. It was at a park and it was family fun, friends and family, a nice wholesome event, and it was during the day, daylight. By the time the nightfall comes around, they're already packed up and leave. I don't know what kind of Juneteenth they were celebrating. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what type of Juneteenth celebrating at 12 midnight. I don't know. So we could say they're celebrating. No, they probably was just having a random party and some kids get violent. Let's share this story with you. Police arrest teenage suspect in mass shooting at Juneteenth festival. Now, this is not Chicago. This is happening across the United States. We could say Juneteenth, the massacre day. Like, really, this is really ridiculous. So I'm assuming Juneteenth, they were celebrating on a Thursday. A teenage suspect was arrested in Washington, D.C. on Thursday in connection with a mass shooting that killed one person and wounded 3 others, police said. The 15-year-old boy who lives in northwestern part of the U.S. Capitol was taken into custody. You see, they don't mention his name because he's 15. And this is one of the states that I was talking. D.C., well, D.C. is not a state, but Washington, D.C. and PG County, Maryland, all that area, Baltimore, they protect children. So you could be a violent criminal, but if you're under the age of 18, I think it's 17, they won't release your name or your face. So you could have a violent criminal, even though he's a so-called minor, they won't release his face, so he could just be walking amongst you. So they were saying they took him in custody by the Regional Fugitive Task Force. He was then transported to the Juvenile Processing Center where he was charged with first-degree murder while armed. According to the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia, which did not release the suspect's name. So it says the charge stemmed from the deadly shooting that took place in Northwest DC on the night of June 19th. I don't know why they're saying June 19th. Oh, this is an old report, but this is saying that they arrested him. It was a 15-year-old boy. And this was in DC. And then there was another one. Let me show you on this one. Another one that happened, I think it was in St. Louis. If I could find it. Another one that happened in St. Louis, and yeah, so this is it. It says 4 people killed, dozens injured in a chaotic night of mass shootings across the country.
Who's dead? Is it a man, a woman?
I can't say at this time. The motive behind this incident is unclear, and this is still an active investigation.
Individual who's dead, is it a man, a woman?
I can't say at this time.
Was it a shooter?
I can't say that either.
So he can give you the information. But
tonight a family's emotion.
It says at least 4 people were killed and more than 24 others were injured in shootings in Illinois, Missouri, and Washington State in a deadly night of gun violence. And it mentioned 22 more were injured in the strip mall. That's where they was having the Juneteenth celebration. It began at 6 p.m. You just having a party. Oh, let's have a Juneteenth party. No, Juneteenth usually are picnics, family picnics. They don't be partying. I mean, so anybody going to that 6 p.m., the party starts at 6 p.m. What kind of party is that? I mean, don't call me a square, but Juneteenth celebrations are usually picnics. They usually have them at the park, not a strip mall. And it says approximately 12:25 a.m., police were called due to a 911 call alleging a fight and had broken out nearby, the DuPage County Sheriff's Office said Sunday. As deputies responded, they heard gunshots and immediately returned to the scene of the gathering. And this is what they came up upon. All this trash and the people just trashing the neighborhood. But we calling this a celebration. Preliminary witness and victims reports indicate that there were at least 20 individuals shot. Chief Sheriff Deputy Eric Swanson said early Sunday, at this time, 1 victim is deceased. He said the victims were taken to a nearby hospital, adding that their names and ages were not available. Some people were also injured as they fled, but were not struck by any gunfire. The motive behind this was unclear and is still active investigation. So we did see, this is the St. Louis shooting.
Tonight, a family's emotions overwhelming after a 30-year-old prison sentence for the man who killed their 9-year-old son.
This is not what I wanted. Okay, never mind. Tracy said the officers in the area noticed a group of people fleeing the building downtown and called for backup. At the same time, multiple calls came in reporting the shooting. Okay, so they had a party downtown at the George Amphitheater. That was in Washington State, 150 miles east of Seattle. It says 2 people were killed and 3 others was injured, and that was at a musical festival. And then another deadly shooter took place at 1 a.m. in the St. Louis area. 1 person was killed and 9 others injured. They saying that they had a party downtown in some office building. And they said, okay, so St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones said at a news conference Sunday that her office was working to expand resources to keep city youth away from gun violence. She also called on parents throughout the area to engage with their children and monitor their teenagers. No, they partying too. They not monitoring their kids. That's why you got this crap. They're not doing that. I think one way that you could stop a lot of violence if you just hold the parents accountable. You not being responsible for your kids, so we gonna hold you responsible. And maybe some of this stuff, maybe start locking these parents up, and maybe people will get serious about parenting the kids. But right now they're not serious. They let their kids do whatever. And then they go to say there's been 307 mass shootings in the U.S. since 2023. So, yeah, we have that. Then we have Mayor Brandon Johnson. You know, he's celebrating Juneteenth, and then he sent out a tweet about the Juneteenth. And Biden. Let me show you guys that. So Mayor Brandon Johnson, this is what he tweeted. Sending condolences to families and loved ones of victims of the violence at Juneteenth celebration in Willowbrook last night. Everyone should be able to gather peacefully without fear, so we must remain committed to addressing gun violence in our city and neighboring communities. But are you really addressing gun violence? Or you're trying to say, oh, we need more community programs? That's not going to do that. Nothing. You see what I'm saying? We need more community programs, but we still protecting. Oh, these kids, they need more programs. They've lost. They need jobs. But whatever you throw at Chicago, you could put money into Chicago. But if you don't have your parents' support, you're not gonna be successful. It doesn't just take the city of Chicago to do it. You have to have active parenting. And then you have to have laws that support what you're trying to do. But if you just slap their wrists and say, oh, they're just kids, they're acting out because we failed them, then you get what you get. You get 55 shootings or people getting shot in one weekend, or over 260 people being killed, and 167 of them are Black. You know, so to me, it's like, are you really trying to do something, or are you just talking? And right now he's just talking. This is Brandon Johnson. He criticized media coverage over the gun violence. And you know, the media just reporting the media. It's nothing to do with, are we trying to put the bad light on Chicago? No, people want to know.
That's the best thing that you can offer to the people of Chicago. Not criticism, not demonization, not a city that is divided over whether or not young people should be seen or heard. We're not going to allow the press or the media to dictate who our young people are. In fact, I'll say it again. If you don't live in Chicago and you're not offering up solutions, stop talking about us. Now, you all know
so he said this, and the mayor of PG County said the same thing. He carried the same sentiment. Hey, you don't live here, so stop talking about us. No, we still want to talk about it. You don't live here, so you keep your name out my my MF mouth. Out your MF mouth. So it's like, so I can't talk about you. You talking about violent crime. Maybe I want to visit Chicago. I want to know what's going on. So I'm going to talk about it.
sanctified. I really wanted to cuss there, but I was raised better.
The facts are that 10 killings last weekend were the most in 5 years during the first weekend of June, and a few days earlier, Memorial Day weekend was the bloodiest in 8 years. Now, Mayor Johnson was sworn in on May 15th. A city council member that Johnson and the Chicago Teachers Union tried unsuccessfully to defeat in the last election told me he's optimistic that the mayor's actual anti-crime policies will be more pragmatic than his rhetoric.
We're not going to defund the police. All that stuff is campaign rhetoric. If we don't have public safety, then the residents of Chicago are not going to feel safe, and ultimately it's going to impact economic development.
Now, I did reach out to the mayor's office asking which specific press or media outlets the mayor was criticizing there. If we do get a response, we'll let you know on our later broadcast. We'll have more on this at 5 o'clock. I'm political editor Mike Flannery.
All right, thanks so much, Mike.
So that was that. And then you had President what's his name? President Biden sending his, actually, it wasn't even President Biden. I think it was Corinne, the White House secretary, saying, oh, if you need our support, we're there for you. Like, they need more than support. Like, Chicago is in a state where they probably need the National Guard. They need more than police. They need to set a curfew, stricter policies on gun violence, actually prosecute people. You know, because the police, I think the police, they sometimes do their job, or most of the time, but they said 90% of the people that they try to prosecute end up not being prosecuted. So it's a bunch of things that they need to do, and they're not doing it. So we're going to look at this other report. Now, we talked about gun violence. We talked about Juneteenth. But this is Cori Bush. Cori Bush is honing in on getting this reparation bill signed and authored and initiated because she wants to get $14 trillion to the descendants of slaves. And I'm questioning, what are you going to do with the $14 trillion? If you were to ask all those people that were out to the Juneteenth celebration, that they shot up the place or whatever, if you were to ask them why are you celebrating, probably 90% of them probably couldn't tell you why they were celebrating Juneteenth or what Juneteenth is really all about. So this goes to my next point. You don't know what Juneteenth is all about. Do you really know the history of your people, of enslavement? Do you really know that? Who do you know that was a slave? I got an older girlfriend. She said she has older parents. Her grandparents were slaves, but she's older. But do you really know anybody that was slaves? Everybody I know, they were able to take advantage of going to school where they want to go to school at. So where's this reparations going to? Are you saying that you wasn't able to take advantage of the free education? You know, you being the age that you are now, you're not able to take advantage of the free education that they offer to the citizens of the United States. Even in some states, this is prior to the pandemic. If you vow to go to college in that state and you got pretty decent grades, they'll pay your college tuition for free. So where is Cori Bush expecting this money to go to? So I'm going to play this. This is about, I'm not going to play this whole thing. This is Opal Lee. She's been pushing Juneteenth for the federal holiday. I'm not going to play that because that's not what I'm going to talk about. I really want to play this one. This guy is in San Francisco. He's been pushing for the $5 million payout for San Francisco residents. And I think he's a college professor. And I don't know how to turn this thing down without. Anyway, I was trying to play that video, but it looks like it's not going to let me skip it. But let me just read this to you guys. For many Americans, Juneteenth, which is commemorates the end of legalized slavery in the U.S. on June 19th, 1865, it is a time of jubilee. And since President Joe Biden signed legislation in 2021 to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, others welcome it as a day of rest. Okay. However, Juneteenth should be more than a day of rest or celebration. It should be a somber day to reflect on the unique challenges Black people have faced in this country, and a day to emphasize the need for national atonement. This Juneteenth is an opportune moment to consider the bill Representative Cori Bush, Democrat of Missouri, introduced last month, calling for $14 trillion in reparations for Black Americans. You see how they're saying, oh, it should be a day of somber or atonement. Why would it be a day of somber? You know, why? Okay, so some of us struggled. I know my parents struggled. My dad in particular, you know, he's 70, well, he's 80. He'll be 80, he'll be 81 in January. So he experienced stuff that I have no idea. You know, so, but he's not walking around saying, oh, woe is me. You know? So why would I be walking around saying, oh, we struggle so hard? And I live in a community where most of the houses, probably like $500,000 houses in this area. Like, oh, woe is me. The struggle was so real and so hard. You know, so I don't, why would I walk around sad? So Bush was right when she said at the news conference that the United States had a moral and legal obligation to provide reparations for the enslavement of Africans and its lasting harm on the lives of millions of Black people. People or American must provide reparations if we desire a prosperous future for all. While critics argue that it's too late to offer reparations, and you could see the counter argument, well, it's never too late. I'm still alive. The push for reparation is almost as old as the country itself. Bush's legislation is just one of the most recent attempts to get recompense for slavery in the decades of discrimination, segregation, and racist policies that followed. Okay, so it says, despite of the many political gains and triumphs over the years, racism and white supremacies persist in all aspects of American life and culture. I'm laughing because I always talk about white supremacy. White supremacy. The white man is keeping you down. Like, okay, when are we going to get off of that? When are we going to say, oh, it's up to us, our community, to pull us up, not this other person? We was mad, and I'm saying we, not me in particular, but I'm saying we as a Black people in Chicago was mad because Chicago decided to divest in the community. They had 8 Walmarts open. They closed 4 of them because we decided to seek reparations unlawfully. They were stealing in the grocery store. I think one lady, I had a comment, she lives down the street from one of the stores that they stole from. She said it wasn't in the news. They had somebody that got killed prior to them shutting that store down. And then during the riots, she said they tore that store up. They literally had to rebuild that store. The amount of money that they put into that store, and then 2 years later you close it down because it wasn't worth it. So, and who owns Walmart? The white man. Why can't you build your own grocery store? Why can't we pull our money together and build our own grocery store? But we blame the white man got to feed you too. You blaming the white. If I was thinking, oh, the white man is doing this, white man was doing that, I would have my own ecosystem, a closed system where I didn't depend on the white man. So why you still dependent on the white man? And you waiting for permission to build your own stuff. That's why I have a problem with this white supremacy. It's holding you back. That's why I think this is a made up concept in 2023. No one should be holding you back from doing anything besides yourself. The average Black family wealth in the United States is 1/10 of the average white family, and the wealth gap tied directly to slavery. I could tell you the answer to that too. Stop spending your shit or your money on stuff that don't matter. I have a video out there. It's probably one of the least viewed videos. It's called the NACA program. And it's basically, I had a live video and I had I posted it again to kind of go over the requirements. But this video is basically telling people how you could get into home ownership with only $2,500 in your bank account. You just have to have a stable job, and you've been paying your bills for 2 years. You didn't even have to have a credit card. You just have to show that, hey, I've been paying rent or whatever for 2 years. And you could pick a place anywhere. It had to be within your budget. They'll give you your down payment, and your interest rate is lower. Let me see if I can find it. Your interest rate is lower than what you would normally pay. So if it's at 5%, you probably get an interest rate at 4%. But Bank of America, and they got other banks, work to get people that normally won't be approved for housing or to buy a house. They help them out. They put your down payment, and you could own up to a 1 unit all the way up to a 4-unit house. So you literally could become a landlord overnight. And the only stipulation is that you couldn't own a house. Let me see. Can you guys see this? The only stipulation, you couldn't own the house. This is all my grant videos and all that. I do a lot of videos on grant. I haven't did them lately because I've been talking about politics, but buy home with no money down. If you guys looking to buy a house, this has 136 views. Buy home with no money down. So you want to solve, where's the problem at? You want to solve problems where you make your wealth, your family wealth is more. It says the average Black family wealth is United States is only 1/10 of the average white family. The wealth gap tied directly to slavery. You know what was all that? Buying a home. Stop spending money that you don't have. Stop doing that Klarna stuff or PayPal. You don't have to go to every concert. You don't have to have every red bottom shoe. You don't have to be laced in Christian Dior. You don't have to have what is it, a Cadillac. You don't even have to have a new truck or new car. I mean, my car is 10 years old. I paid it off maybe about 3 years ago. And it drives fine. It's not the newest model, but it run every time I go to it starts up, and I keep it clean. I keep it up to date. So that's how you build what? Put money in where that builds wealth, that appreciate, not depreciate. I mean, I hate to be preaching to you guys, but that's basically how you build wealth. And take advantage of, hey, you could say, oh, I only make such amount of money. This NACA program, you don't even need to make a lot of money. It's based off your income. But they offer free counseling service to get you prepared to, hey, this is what it takes to operate a household. Especially if you don't know how to operate a household, your parents didn't own the home. Maybe you don't know what the costs associated with owning a house. That NACA program, that's the program that you could get into. And it's free. So that's one reason, one way you could tighten that wealth gap. Not depending on reparations. Reparations, the white man is not going to save you. Let's get that in our heads. The white man is not going to save you. You have to save yourself. Another way to get your reparations. You going to school, stop majoring in African studies. Nobody care about African studies. You need to go on to BLS, the National Bureau of Labor Statistics, and see what is the growth job expectancy. That's how I majored in chemical engineering. It's not like, oh, I like engineering. I was going to major in computer engineering. But I was looking at growth expectancy. Like, how much can I make? Because I knew I grew up poor and I didn't want to be poor no more. So I looked at the Labor Bureau of Statistics and see what was the growth expectancy for my job or what I wanted to major in. I knew it wanted to be in engineering. So I ended up picking chemical engineering. Oh, Shawanda, I'm not passionate. Who cares if you're passionate about it? Does it get your family? Does it build wealth? Then once you start making that 100,000, like when I graduated, the kids, I was a non-traditional student. I didn't get my degree until I was 30. But the kids that was graduating with me, 21, 22, they was coming out making 100,000 a year. And these was black men. They were coming out making 100,000 a year. But they majored in the right degrees. You know, they didn't major in, I don't know, African studies. I always say African studies because you got DI, diversity and inclusion majors, you know, stuff that don't even make sense. Stuff, you know, Joe Biden is touting, oh, we got so many jobs out there, but you don't have people to fill the jobs because you didn't teach them. You didn't educate them enough to fill those jobs. You let them get these useless degrees and now they don't have any jobs. Well, how many diversity and inclusion specialists do we need, or human resources professionals? We don't need those. We need people that have skills, computer skills, sci-fi, computer tech skills, technology, that kind of STEM, all those STEM degrees. Major in something like that. That's how you get your reparations. You want to close that wealth gap? That's one way you could close it. Major in a good degree. Go be a doctor. Go be a lawyer. Go be an engineer. You know, that's how you close the wealth gap. Become a nurse. Then another way to close the wealth gap don't have any illegitimate babies. Oh, Shawad, don't have any. Yes, don't produce a baby if you ain't married. You make more. It's more when you have two people. You got one household income or one household or bills to take care of, but you got two people doing it. And if you want to be a stay-at-home wife before y'all start producing kids, you work a lot. This is what your white people doing. They get married in college. They, or get married after college. They both work. Then they have a baby. Then Susie stay home with the kids. And she's able to stay home longer, even if she want to put them in daycare. Because they worked together, they saved up their money, and now they're living comfortably that they could, have one person working and one staying at home. That's how it works. If you want to close the wealth gap, that's what you need to do. And I'm telling you based off experience. I grew up in a single family household, bunch of kids. We was dirt poor. Then we were middle class people before my mom and dad split. Then we were poor because I didn't have a dad in the household. Then I got grown and I said, oh, I don't want to be poor. So I majored in something that I wasn't poor. Then I got married. Then I had a kid. That's how you close the wealth gap. So it's just being white. The white man is not going to save you. Let's talk about that. The white man is not going to save you. And Cori Bush needs to stop with all this nonsense. Saying that this $14 trillion is going to make a difference in our community. It's not. Our mindset, if we change our mindset, that's what's going to make the real difference. It says, for centuries, African Americans has been demanding reparations, and sometimes in the form of actual payments and other times in the form of programs and resources that help improve the socio-economic condition of the Black people in the United States. Belinda Sutton, a formerly enslaved Black woman in Massachusetts, petitioned the Massachusetts General Court in 1783 in an effort to receive a pension from the estate of her deceased former owner. At its core, Sutton's petition was demand for reparations. She referred explicitly to her years of unpaid labor. She has a claim because Belinda Sutton actually worked for free. Her claims was valid. And maybe the kids that grew up in her household. That was a valid claim. After a civil war, Callie House led campaign for reparations through her organization and the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pension Association from John Wayne Niles in 1880s to Audley Queen Mother Moore during the 1960s. Black leaders have been demanding that country acknowledge and make good on its debt. And in recent years, organizations such as the National Coalition for Reparations in America have been on the forefront of the movement. Bush isn't the first federal lawmaker to make up this cause. In 1989, Black lawmakers first, late Representative John Conyers, he's from Detroit, and now Representative Sheila Jackson have introduced a bill, H.R. 40, commissions to study the development of reparations proposal for African Americans in the act in the House, which takes from the name of 40 Acres and a Mule promise would establish a commission to consider proposal for reparations for African American descendants of slaves. So Bush is calling on the federal government to do more than establish a commission. She's demanding action. You know? So, I mean, I'm not going to read this article, but it goes on. So we have Juneteenth, and she's saying, "Hey, it's a time that you make good with the Black community." But I believe the Black community, they need to make good with themselves. We shouldn't be the most impacted with gun violence if we saying we stand on love and Black Lives Matter. We shouldn't be the prominent people that are affected by gun violence. If we're saying Black Lives Matter and Juneteenth matter, we're celebrating for being free, but we're still steady killing each other. Oh, you free, but you still are at a risk to die by your own hands. That make it make sense. And reparations is not going to solve that. So I talked long enough, you guys. Let's go through some of these. Blackfoot man, I'm an Indian, give me your money. All Americans have equal rights and freedom. Persecution is just crazy talk. It is. Counting Mouth, it says Juneteenth got violent. I would have never guessed. Yeah, I mean, it got violent because, you know, they acting like it's a real party. It's supposed to be a day of celebration, a picnic during the day, you know. Blackfoot said trade school. Yeah, welding. Well, I know some welders, they make pretty good money. Some of the welders, if you get linked up to the right company, you could be clearing 200 grand a year. Traveling welders, if you stay abreast with like TIG and MIG welding, trade schools, you know what's a dying industry? People that know how to put trimming and wainscoting, cutting those 45 degree angles and 35 and 25 degree angles. That's a dying industry. People don't know how to build stuff anymore. So yeah, trade school is another thing. And you, like, if you want to get into technology, they got a lot of trade tech programs. It says Blackfoot said, have a baby when you have a foundation to raise your child. Yeah. I always say, like, men, you probably shouldn't get married until you like 30. A man shouldn't get married to like 30, but if you get married young, you know, you just got to be in for it for the long haul, you know, and don't get pressured about bringing the baby into the world and you're not foundationally sound. So that's it for our program today. You guys, I'm going to try to go live every day this week. Don't hold me to it, but I am. Since the kids are home, I got to do it earlier because you know, got to keep them busy. And so yeah, you know, so watch for me. Is more likely it will be noon. So I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.